Good morning. Welcome to our Backpack to Briefcase workshop today. We have a panel this morning that I've been excited for all semester. The topic is grad school now or later. And I know that many of you have questions about this of, do I need a graduate degree? If I do need one, when should I pursue one right away or get some professional experience? And so we have an awesome panel lined up this morning that will speak and share their experiences. So I'm going to turn the time over to each of them to give an introduction of themselves. And Bob, let's have you go first, and then we'll have Emma and Jared.
Great. My name is Bob Winder, grew up in Logan, Utah. Went to BYU undergrad because I had to get away from the family a little bit, so don't hold that against me. I did management consulting out of college and then private equity, and went to Northwestern's Kellogg MBA school, and then I currently run a boutique investment bank. We sell businesses, raise capital, help investors buy businesses. Just hired a couple Utah State kids. They're doing awesome. We have a bunch of interns. So love Utah State. I might end up teaching there next year. We'll see. Have 5 kids. I love to barbecue. I'm finishing up a brisket right now, so I'm really excited. Happy Friday, everybody. And I look forward to this event.
Hi, my name's Mba Cherrington. I grew up in Stansbury Park, Utah, and I went to Utah State for my undergraduate and my graduate degrees. I did my undergraduate in business administration and one in marketing. And then right after I finished that, I went straight into my master's in management information systems and graduated with that last year. So all of those of you who are pushing through those last couple months, I feel ya. I've been there. But after graduation, I got a degree. After I got my degree, I accepted a position as a healthcare data analyst with Revere Health in Provo. And I've been working there for the last year and have been loving it. It's been super interesting, and it's so great to finally take what all I learned in school and put it into practice.
My name is Jared Patterson. I grew up in Danville, Illinois, and I went to BYU, Idaho for an undergraduate in industrial organizational psychology. And then I worked at a large nonprofit in Salt Lake for about 2 years in human resources. And then that's when I decided to go back to school, and I got my first master's in HR, and then finishing up my second master's, which is MBA. And I'll be working at Honeywell, actually in Phoenix, Arizona, when I graduate here in the next 6 weeks. So also very excited for that.
Yes, the end is in sight for all those graduating seniors. It's coming close. So I do want to introduce, we have another panelist, Sarah Peck. She has a case that went to trial this morning out in Virginia. So she may not be able to get on in time, but I wanted to just give an introduction in case she was able to hop on in the middle of it. She got her JD degree at William and Mary Law, and her undergraduate is in international studies and economics here at Utah State, but she's solid, and you're welcome to connect with her on LinkedIn after if she isn't able to join us. So thank you again for our panelists. As you can see, they represent a pretty diverse range of degrees, professional experience, and so their insight is really valuable. I wanted to start out the panel by asking each of the panelists, what were the major or initial reasons why you chose to pursue a graduate degree?
All right, do we go in the same order? I'll start. I was on the fence for a long time. MBA doesn't necessarily enable you to do anything that you couldn't already do. Doesn't give you a specific license, for example, like, JD or a PhD or, an MD would enable you to do certain things that an MBA doesn't enable you to do anything more that you don't already do. So I was kind of on the fence for a long time. In my mind, MBA school was kind of a plan B. If I wasn't already doing something really epic, then I should go to B school and continue to learn, build my network, get a big stamp of approval on my resume. And ultimately, I got to the point where it was time to make a decision, and I felt like, yep, I'm doing okay stuff, but I should go to B school and continue to learn and develop. For me, I was always in such a hurry. I graduated undergrad in 3.5 years, and I didn't take any time off, and I've never taken any, like, I've just always been in such a hurry. And so I think part of the reason for me being somewhat on the fence about MBA school was it was 2 years. That seemed like a long time at the time. I look back at it now, and I'm actually really happy that I went to MBA school. It was so stinking fun, and I learned a ton. And 2 years in the big scheme of things, I just turned 35. I have 30 something more years. I never want to retire. I love to work. So just feeling like I've always needed to sprint through things, and not necessarily sharpen the saw with those 2 years was probably a bad idea. And so I'm really, really happy that I went to MBA school. And even though I was kind of on the fence before I did it, when I was there, I realized, hey, this is amazing. And I'm really happy I did it.
And Bob, I'll just jump in there. So being a Cache Valley native and then going to BYU, what made you decide to go to Northwestern? And Kellogg has a great program, obviously, but what were some of the deciding factors to go to Northwestern?
I worked with quite a few people that went to Northwestern, and everyone that I knew that had gone there was just fantastic. Really personable, very, very high on emotional intelligence, as in addition to kind of general intelligence. So it seemed like it would be the type of environment that I would get along with well and enjoy the people there. They also had a 1-year accelerated MBA program for those that did an undergrad in business. And so I thought, well, geez, if I can get a top 5 MBA in 1 year, that seems pretty interesting. It's just a 12 consecutive month program. You don't have an internship. And I knew that I wanted to go buy a business. And so I figured, well, let me just do this and I can search for a business to buy while I am in school. I ended up buying a business after 6 months and deferring, and I finished it. I ended up finishing it in 2 years. So it worked out. But no, Kellogg just has a really, really good reputation for nice people and collaborative teamwork environment. And in addition to being right on one of the most beautiful campuses, right on Lake Michigan, it's a lake town. You don't realize it. We lived right next to the beach. Like we were there in the summer. It was unbelievable. So it was an extremely enjoyable experience and fantastic people. And I learned a ton. And it's it's been a great brand and a great stamp on the resume.
That's great. Thank you, Bob. Emma, what about you? So you did your undergraduate here at the Huntsman School of Business and then pursued your MMIS. Talk to us a little bit about why you chose to do that.
Yeah, so I originally wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. I started school doing a business administration degree because I originally wanted to become a dentist, and I thought it was going to be a great pair to go with my pre-dental and help me be able to run my own practice one day. But as I was in school, I decided dentistry was not my passion, not what I loved. And so I decided to pair with that marketing instead of the pre-dental. And as I did more marketing, I fell in love with market research and being able to help know what consumers are deciding and what are those deciding factors. And so as I pursued more of that, I pivoted a little bit more and got a minor in MIS and just fell in love with data. And so I decided that when I finished my undergraduate degree, I didn't quite have the skills that I wanted to pursue the career I wanted. So I applied for the MMIS and was super excited to start that right after I finished my undergraduate degrees and just kind of plugged through. Kind of opposite from Bob, I always knew I wanted to continue school and do more than just my undergraduate. I loved school and I was not ready to leave. So the master's was a great option for me. And kind of on a personal side, my husband still had 1 more year of his undergraduate degree. And so it was a great way for me to get that MMIS in 1 year, further my skills, ramp up my resume, and be able to really start my career on the foot I wanted to start it on, while still being able to support my husband in finishing his school as well.
That's great. Thank you, Emma. I had the privilege of knowing Emma, so I knew right away I wanted her for one of the panelists. I knew her as a student and was just so impressed. The first time I met Emma, I thought, she is going places. And I can't wait to follow her in her career, and she's already doing amazing things. So I'm so glad to have Emma. Emma, a follow-up question for you. I know sometimes students can be a little apprehensive if they don't have a very strong technical background. You did have an MIS minor, but did you ever feel like you weren't quite prepared for the MMIS program, a much more technical program, or what was it like for you jumping into that graduate program?
100%. I was terrified. And when I first started those classes, I just felt like I was so behind so many of my peers who were in the same program. But luckily, the professors in the MMIS program are amazing. I spent so much time in their offices after classes and getting extra help. And also the other students were so helpful. I had a ton of study groups that we all worked together. And I was just so grateful for the people who were willing to help catch me up, because I definitely felt behind. But I felt like within the first 2 months of just devoting a little extra time to my work and spending that extra time with my professors, I really got my skills to where I wanted them to be and where I felt they needed to be. And as well, in the process, really improved my network. A lot of those professors I worked with and the students I worked with have been really influential in my degree as well as in getting my job. They were great references and just great people to know. And I'm still in contact with a lot of them. So that's been great.
That's great. Thank you, Emma. That's something that we'll touch on a little bit later, is that networking experience of graduate school. So I love that you brought that up, and we'll touch on that in more detail later. Jared, what about you?
So my decision to come back to grad school was sort of twofold. Number one, I wanted more money. And in human resources, starting out, usually you're looking around like 50,000, right? And especially in Utah Valley. And I had a family at the time as well. And so I worked for a couple of years after I graduated with my bachelor's, and I realized that my earning potential would just go up in my field of human resources with a master's degree. So that was number one. Number two, I really wanted to work for a big, large organization. It's sort of kind of what Bob alluded to earlier. I wanted that stamp on my resume of like a big brand name, organization that I could essentially get a bunch of experience in a really big, maybe Fortune 500 company. And then that way, if I ever wanted to leave, I could have that experience in my belt and then, maybe take it to a startup or something else. So I just wanted to start my career off in that way. And I felt like a master's degree people don't realize is the biggest pathway into a lot of these big brand companies. These big companies come onto the master's programs. They'll come and they'll do interview days with the master's students, and then they'll make offers for internships, and then they'll test you out for your internship and then give you an offer to come full-time. That's how I got it. So I wanted to get my foot into like one of these big name companies in the Fortune 500 list. And I think that the master's degree, and by the way, I'm at Utah State, I didn't mention that earlier, but yeah, I think master's degrees and MBAs in general sort of open that door. Now, that's not the only way to get there, definitely not. But I think that's probably, for me in human resources, was the path of least resistance.
That's great. Thank you. So we have a couple of questions that have been submitted from our students on the YouTube. The first question is from Hayden. He said, have you seen that having a master's degree has helped you have more opportunities for success of a better overall experience? And we can go in any order, anyone that wants to speak to this.
I'll touch on this real fast. I was in a really interesting situation because my husband's undergraduate degree is in MIS. So it was really interesting for both of us to be applying for jobs at the same time and see my master's versus his undergraduate. And not like this is the end all be all, but I definitely had a lot more job opportunities from it. And, we were applying right when COVID happened. And so a lot of places we were looking right as COVID happened. So a lot of places weren't hiring. And so I felt like the master's opened up a lot of opportunities for me to be able to find jobs that more fit what I wanted to do. And my husband ended up finding a great job, but it definitely took him a couple months longer than it took me. So I think a bachelor's is great, but the master's definitely opened up more doors for me in my experience, especially comparing it straight across with my husband with his undergraduate degree.
That's great. Thank you, Emma. Yeah, not a fun time to be looking for jobs, right? The onset of COVID. Jared or Bob, did you want to add anything? And you don't need to, but I want to give you time if you did want to add anything to that.
Sure. The beauty of getting your master's is in terms of recruiting, it puts you in the recruiting cycle again. A lot of businesses love to recruit students out of a specific cycle. It's harder when you're off cycle. So if you're already in industry and then you have to really just pound the pavement and kind of beat the phones yourself and figure out how to make those connections. Whereas if you're in school, there's already a ton of recruiters, a ton of companies that is their recruiting protocol is to go to the school and have a specific cycle. And so it just gives you so many more at bats based on whatever, company you're looking to recruit with versus being off cycle and trying to do it on your own. So I think it opens up a lot of doors in that regard. I was a little more entrepreneurial. And so, I wasn't necessarily in those cycles, but I saw a lot of my peers looking to pivot and, maybe do some things that they would have loved to do right out of undergrad, but didn't have the opportunity. And then going back to grad school, kind of let them have another shot at some of these really interesting careers that they wanted to get into. It's almost like hitting the reset button. And I saw a lot of my peers place, in fantastic jobs and were super, super happy because they had that opportunity again, because they were in that on-cycle environment.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Jared kind of touched on that in talking about the big companies, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies that are coming and recruiting to these graduate programs specifically. Jared, could you talk about that process a little bit more and maybe even touch on why you chose Utah State in terms of the collaborative and supportive culture of the cohort?
Yeah, so first, just running through a little bit of how recruiting works, I want to give a piece of advice that was given to me before choosing a master's program. I was told by a mentor, choose a master's program, not for necessarily the name or whatever, but check out what companies are hiring out of that program, what companies come and recruit from that program. And if you like those companies, if you would like to work at those companies, then that's when you would want to, go to that school. So that was a piece of advice that was given to me that kind of changed things a little bit, which led me here to Utah State to the HR Master of Human Resource program. So essentially, right when you start, I think we started in September, late August. Right when you start, companies come on campus and do an info session, and then they'll choose from the group. You all submit your resumes, everyone in the cohort, and you all submit your resumes that those of you that would like to work at this company. They interview you, and then they give offers for internships. You do well in your internship, they give you a full-time offer. So, depending on the school, you may have, 30 companies come. Other schools may only have 15, 20. But yeah, that was a big piece of advice for me. Just being sure to choose the school based on the company I wanted to work for. And as well, you touched on the culture a little bit. I think the culture here was very supportive, and it seemed like it was focused on getting students jobs, which I appreciated. That was the whole reason for the master's program. So.
Yeah, and I'll just touch on that too. So my husband is actually in the same program as Jared and thinks so highly of Jared and the program. But I was so impressed right away because sometimes you hear stories of these really competitive programs, and the Huntsman MHR program is very competitive. So when I saw these students going out of their way to support each other and congratulate each other, and if they turn down an offer, they'd recommend someone else in their cohort as an excellent candidate. And I do think that's a great thing to consider in terms of recruitment, is what is the culture of your graduate program, and is it something that you'll be successful in? So thank you. So let's see, I'll ask another question from one of the students. When would you recommend not getting an advanced degree? Any thoughts there?
I can talk, because I was kind of on the fence, right? I teach a finance class at BYU right now, and I was interviewing one of my students a couple of days ago who was working on a business with his father-in-law that was about to go public. Really, really interesting, bringing a lot of manufacturing back to the United States, a lot of personal protective equipment from COVID, just a prime opportunity for what they're doing. And so his perspective was, hey, I just need to graduate. I'm not as concerned about my grades. I'm not looking at MBA right now. I'm just going to ride this because this could be huge and really interesting. I think if you have an opportunity like that, if you're already on the path, if you're already doing what you want to do, then, a graduate degree is really to advance you to take the next step in your career. And if you already feel like you're where you want to be, then it probably isn't the right time for you to consider that.
I love that. Thanks, Bob. And it's true, a graduate degree isn't for everyone. And Jared mentioned for his career specifically, he really needed it to be able to push him. Emma talked about merging her love of healthcare and data and marketing, and she really needed that master's degree. But there are certainly times when it may not work for you. And for some students, school, they don't love school like Emma, or they don't want to stay in school forever. And so it's definitely a very personal decision on whether you pursue one, and if you do, when and what the right time is for you. So we have another question I want to ask. What differentiated the school experience from being an undergraduate to graduate? Did you notice differences between the two? Was it harder, easier? What made the difference between the two?
I mean, I can dive into that a little bit. So the difference for me was it was less individual assignments and more group work, a focus on teamwork, getting things done as a group and doing your part. So a lot more presentations. They tried the master's programs, at least at Utah State, the two that I've been through are more focused on making the setting like it's your end work, right? So you're gonna do a lot more group work, a lot more meeting with your team, dividing and conquering on the assignments, a lot less of, hey, here's these problems that you need to work out on your own.
Yeah, and just to echo what Jared said, I agree completely that it's a lot more real world experience. I feel like much more what I did in my graduate degree was applicable to when I went to my job, where I feel like a lot of the undergraduate degree work was a lot of like, well, this might happen, when my graduate degree was like, hey, you're presented with this, figure it out. And that experience helped me grow a lot more. It really developed my problem solving. So then when I did get into my career, I was able to be like, okay, this is what I'm presented with. How can I dig in? How can I get to the root of the problem and move on from there? And just also what I touched on earlier, I feel like the relationships I developed during my graduate program were much more in depth than they were during my undergraduate, especially with my professors. There's a lot more one-on-one. There's a lot more of just that personal relationship along with like a professor-student relationship.
That's great. Thank you.
I can touch on that too.
Yep.
My MBA experience was unbelievable. It was so fun compared to my undergrad experience, which was not that fun. I felt like as an undergrad, it was all about the grade. I just had to keep the GPA up to be competitive, to recruit. And it was extremely competitive and, just so intense, which was good. I mean, and that's kind of what you sign up for, and that was good. But my MBA, we didn't track grades. We didn't disclose grade. I have no idea what my GPA was. How fun is that? So I could just take whatever classes I wanted and focus on what I wanted to learn and not care about, hey, I have to get the A. And then it was much more collaborative because of that. You're not competing against your peers. You're teaming up with them. I had 4 years of work experience, and almost everyone else did too. And so, having real world experience, unbelievable peers, that type of networking and collaborative environment, like Jared and Emma said, lots of group teamwork, it was just so much more enjoyable. And the anxiety wasn't there, the stress wasn't there nearly as much. It was more, how can I focus on what I want to do to build me and to improve my skills so that I can be more successful in the future versus I just need to get a good grade. So it was totally the opposite, which was so refreshing for me. And I hope everyone has that same type of experience. I'm sure that's not always the case, but it was really, really refreshing.
That's a great distinction. Thank you. I even noticed that in my own graduate program, it was much more focused on what am I learning? What are these critical thinking skills rather than can I regurgitate these answers for a test? And I think that really is a common distinction. So a question I want to ask before we run out of time. Some of the students that are watching right now or will watch later are balancing already many different responsibilities, whether they have kids, family, work, whatever it might be. Talk to us about your experience balancing your other responsibilities. And I'll have Jared go first because we were just talking about he and his wife just welcomed twins into their family a month ago, and kind of talk about some of the challenges and maybe even the benefits of having a family while you're going to graduate school.
Yeah, so I have 4 kids under 4. My oldest is 3, and then I have a 2-year-old, and then I have twins. Not all that was planned. So, so yeah, it's been really busy, and especially having these 2 degrees, and then I had this big internship over the summer. It's been a lot, but I think the one thing that really has helped me is that carries over into the workplace is just being able to manage your time and setting a schedule and keeping to a schedule. That's something that I did halfway through my bachelor's degree, that I was like, okay, you know, I would have all my classes in the calendar app, but I wouldn't set up time to study or to do, this is when I'm going to do my homework, things along this nature. So it's just forced me to do that. And over my internship, I saw that carry into the workplace, right? Okay, I need to get this project done. Here's the time that I need to set apart that I can accomplish it. So yeah, it's been a little bit crazy, but totally doable. Not going to say it's not a stretch and it's not difficult. It is, but hopefully I'll be all the better for it.
And Bob, what about you? I know you have 5 kids, right?
Yeah, 5 kids, 8 and under. At one point we had 5 kids, 6 and under. So not so similar to Jared, but it's crazy. It's just nuts. But don't let yourself fall into the excuse of thinking that having children is a detriment. There's so many people that think that, oh, woe is me, I have children, I have all these other responsibilities, so I can't be as successful as my peers that don't have children. That's total garbage. My kids, they make me better at what I do because I'm more motivated and because I'm forced to be more efficient and more effective with my time. So if you take that mentality, having kids actually makes you better. I feel bad for my peers that don't have kids. Sure, they have all this time, but what are they doing with that time? I'm forced to be more effective with the time that I have because I want to be with my kids. I got the coolest kids. I want to be with those guys, and I want to do well professionally so I can have the flexibility and the opportunities to have meaningful experiences with them and give them great opportunities. So it makes me more motivated and better at what I do. And that was the same in grad school. It's the same now. So don't let yourself fall into the trap to think that you have to postpone family because you're busy with whatever. No, just force yourself to become more effective at what you do with the limited amount of time that you have, and then prioritize your life. And in my life, my family's number one. That's how it should be. And it's never been a detriment.
I love that. Thank you. I feel like we could end right on that note because it's true. I have 2 kids myself, and I have noticed, I feel like my kids make me more creative and more efficient with my time. And they're just so funny, like the things they come up with. And it's true. They can make us more empathetic, more patient, more understanding, and develop those soft skills that our employers are always wanting. But it's true. If you, especially with that perspective of it's an advantage, it doesn't need to hinder you. I think you can really, and like Jared said, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's a balance, and you have to figure out how to manage your time, but it's definitely doable. So I echo what both of them said, that don't make that be a reason of feeling like you can't pursue an opportunity. And Emma, I know you and your husband were both going to school at the same time. Did you think that made it easier in some ways, or was it tough, both of you balancing school?
I think it definitely was easier in some ways because we had similar schedules. But both of us also worked 2 jobs while going to school. So while we didn't have kids, we were pretty busy between balancing full-time student and 2 jobs. And really what we did is we just had a set night every week that no matter what was going on, we were taking 2-3 hours that night to do a date night or just sit down and have a nice dinner together or do something like that. And that really grounded me and helped me recharge for all of my other responsibilities. And so, like how Jared and Bob both mentioned, it's schedule, it's using your time efficiently, making sure we had that time set aside to just really put our other responsibilities aside really helped us.
I love that. Thank you. And I know we're at time, but I'm going to ask this last question that a student recently submitted. So he's saying he's an undergraduate right now. His name is Taylor, and he wants to pursue an MBA. What are some things that he could do to set himself apart? And that goes for really any of you in your graduate programs. What can you do as a graduate student or undergraduate to set yourself apart and be more competitive?
I guess I'll go because it's MBA. And then I'm sure Jared has probably even more relevant things to say, but I think a lot of times people try to look at, hey, what can I mold myself into, or how can I not necessarily fool the administration, but what can I put on my resume that's going to make it look good? I'd focus less on the aesthetics and focus more on how can I just do really, really well with what I have in front of me. So I have, you're getting a job, you have a job. I'm just going to crush this job. I'm going to do amazing here. I'm going to do fantastic at the opportunities that have been given me. And that's going to enable me to have advancements in that current job, promotions, and great recommendations from the folks around me there. So I'd focus less on, what other things can I add to my resume, and I'd focus more on how can I just do extremely well with the opportunities that I have in hand.
Yeah, Bob, I 100% agree with that. I think that's spot on. One thing I just add is a tip that I was given so first off, if you're going into an MBA program, I would suggest you get some experience before going into that program. For the HR side, you just need an internship between, so you can go straight through, kind of like Emma did. I decided to work for a couple of years, but most just go straight through. But for an MBA, I would suggest getting a little bit of experience under your belt. But one thing that you should do while you're getting that experience is write down always the accomplishments that you've done, right? If you improve revenue by 20%, anything that you do, keep a list, a running tally of things that you've done, because whether you like it or not, if you decide to pursue either number one, a different job, they're going to ask you, tell me about a time when you did this. Tell me about a time when you did this. Or if you pursue a master's degree, these companies are going to come and ask you what you did. So always keep a running tally. I do that as well. Even now, in my schoolwork, keep a running tally of some things that you've accomplished and some things that you're proud of. And I think that will set you apart in the interviews. And I think with the focus on the goal as well will set you apart in your work balance or your work life.
Thank you for that. So we're out of time. These always go so fast, and I think this has been such a great panel. So thank you all for being authentic and sharing with our students your experiences. We really appreciate your time. So this will be up on Huntsman YouTube. You can watch it again later. Just a reminder that we have one more backpack to briefcase workshop today at noon. It's on informational interviews and how you can use that for career exploration as well as networking. So we have a great alumni, Mike Tolman. He's currently at Entrada, and he'll speak to us at noon. So join us again there, and thanks for watching today.